Welcome to Ignite by White Ribbon Alliance Kenya. This podcast is about voices, accountability, and igniting a movement for reproductive, maternal, and newborn health rights. Here, we bring you stories that inspire change, amplify the voices of the unheard, and hold self and decision makers accountable. Together, we aim to spark conversations and action that lead to a healthier, more equitable future for women, newborns, and families. In this episode, we are joined by Florence Muange, a passionate advocate for adolescent and teenage mothers and founder of a safe home dedicated to supporting teenage girls as they rebuild their lives. Florence is committed to amplifying the voices of girls and adolescent mothers, voices that are often unheard. Karibu, Florence.
Thank you.
Your story is very inspiring. I remember once you spoke about it. You had your home, you are living a normal life with your family, and a young girl walked into your home to seek a better life for herself. And decades after, you have a home and rebuilding lives of adolescent and teenage mothers. Where did it all start?
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. It started when the initial time we went for a mission in Kajiado. And for me, I've had stories of young girls getting married. But what struck me is I saw girls, very young girls with babies strapped on their backs. And I'm like, these girls are supposed to be in school. So I asked a question to the people we were with, and they said those babies belong to them. I couldn't believe. I had to tell the driver to stop the car. Then I went and talked to the girls who were afraid of even talking to a stranger. So I asked them, mama ya huyu mtoto wako wapi? And this girl says, mtoto ni wangu. I'm like, oh no. Then after asking and now understanding why these children are carrying the babies, I realized that these girls are not only mothers, but they are wives. And I'm talking about girls that are below the age of 15. So that struck my heart, and I felt, no, there has to be a change. I wanted to understand, number one, what happens to these girls when they are married at that early age. And for sure, that's the end of that girl's life. So she becomes just a girl or a woman to give birth and take care of the goats and the cows that belongs to the husband. The worst thing is that these girls are not married to young men. They're married to old men. Actually, some are old enough to be their grandfathers.
I remember the first time I spoke to you, you told me you used to house them in your home where you live with your family. How have you grown from that to where you are today? What's the journey like?
Now, when they were staying in my house, I realized that I am actually intruding into my children's privacy, into my home's privacy. That is where I now decided to get a place, because also the numbers were growing, that I could no longer hold them in my house. So when I saw that, and then they also needed their privacy. Remember, they are in a family, and they have come from a family, and my children are grown up. So they feel like, you know, the way you're feeling uncomfortable because you don't have anybody you're identifying yourself with. That's what led me now to getting a place whereby they can be safe, they can relate with their fellow adolescent and teenage mothers, and they can have that freedom of even choosing what they want to eat. Because in my house, it's what is being cooked. But now when they are in their house, they are able to decide even what to do, what to feed their children on. And again, I realized that they needed a lot of counseling. So occasionally I'll have to bring other people apart from me to come and talk to the girls. So that is what led me to separating these girls from my family. And then even actually according to the law, I'm not supposed to house them in my house. So in line with working with what the law says, I had to move them from my house.
And what numbers are we talking about currently? How many do you have? How many have children?
I have 49 children and 17 adolescent mothers. And those are now the ones that are in the center. I have 15 who have completed school, and have gained skills like they've done computer and beauty. So because of their age, now we cannot keep them in the center, because you are not supposed to have a girl or a child who is over 18 in the safe house, because I deal with adolescent and teenage. But the good thing is that they are equipped, they did their Form 4, and they have a skill that they went home with.
So before you took them back to school, and because you've heard their stories, what are the common stories of why girls are giving birth at such a young age? Why adolescent and teenage girls are being married off? Which communities are we talking about here? What are the stories that you hear? Why does this happen?
When you're dealing with the Maasai community, it's more of culture, because they marry off their girls when they're very young. Once a girl is taken through FGM, she's a candidate of marriage, and we're talking about 8, 9, 10 years. So this girl is ready to be a woman. There's one phrase I have heard from the Maasai women, that when a girl goes through FGM, she's told, amuka umekuwa mwanamke. So now, from that time, that girl is ready for marriage, and they are married off even at that age. The other issue is the teenage relationships. They're just trying to explore life, and then they find themselves, they've become sexually active, and they get pregnant. Now, there's one that shocked me in not only in the Maasai community, but in places where the girl feels I am at risk of being given out for marriage. Because when they go to school, there are a lot of things and a lot of conversations that are happening, telling them that they're not supposed to be married by at that age. So occasionally I've had a girl tell me, you know what, I went to look for a younger boy because I didn't want to lose my virginity to an old man. So she did this on purpose. And probably, unfortunately, she gets pregnant on that first attempt. So even when she goes back to when she's married off, she's carrying a pregnancy already that does not belong to this mzee. But what I found interesting in the Maasai community is that a child that is born can be taken care of in. So when they're married, this baby becomes now a daughter or a son to this old man. So there is no question you came when you're pregnant. So long as this child is born when this girl is married, so the child belongs to that family.
For the ones who have children, caregiving is such a big responsibility. So even as you aid them to rebuild their lives, how do they balance that, with taking care of the young babies that they come along with?
That's a tall order, because number one, this girl is still a child. She still feels she wants to go and run, play catty outside. She's just a child. So what we do is we do a lot of counseling, and we have caregivers that carry the burden. Because number one, you have to have a lot of love, a lot of patience. You will wake a girl up at around, let's say 3 a.m. to breastfeed, and she will tell you, mtoto amenyonya sana hata yeye alale. And you don't blame that girl, because her age, she's not supposed even to be breastfeeding at that age. So we teach them to balance, especially now when they come from school. The babies are running to their mothers. They have a lot of homework. They have a uniform to wash so that they can have something to put on tomorrow. They have to feed the babies, because as much as we are working with them, we don't remove them from being responsible mothers. And we want them to bond with their children, because I believe that this child will never have another mother. It doesn't matter how old the mother is. So they need to bond with the children. When they come, initially, they don't have any attachment with these children, because she doesn't even understand why she has the baby. She didn't want to have that baby in the first place, but by and by, they bond. And this is one of the reasons why I decided not to separate the babies from their mothers, because that attachment, a mother's love cannot be found anywhere else. So I decided that we're going to walk this journey with them so that they can also be able to love their children. And I've not had a case whereby that we've not had progress.
Last year, White Ribbon Alliance Kenya documented cases of fathers who've lost their wives and children during delivery, mothers who've lost their children. Some had even lost about 8 children, through miscarriages. And I know because of the young age this girl that you house deliver at, there are some that have had experiences where they've lost their children either before or during birth. Have you had such cases? You can just give us a scenario and how did you handle it and how do you always handle that?
I've encountered this especially in the community when we are empowering the girls out there in the community. And the worst part of it is when these children lose these babies. It's just like, it's normal. So nobody works with these girls, nobody counsels them. It's just, they live with it and it's a shadow that follows them everywhere they go. Because when they lose the children, number one, in some communities, it's like you become like an outcast. Why did you lose a baby? You are a woman. You're supposed to give birth normally like the others. We've not had this in this community for a very long time. So this girl ends up to be blamed like it was her fault. So what I've found very challenging is that when you want to take this girl back to school, unless you realize that this cloud is still hanging over her, she will not be able to perform. So they are neglected. Nobody listens to this girl. So they normalize it also. So the baby died and I have to move on.
I know there are policies about return to school for either young mothers that have been developed. I don't know about how good of implementation that has happened, but if you don't, you can't rescue everyone, that's for sure. So there are a number of many of them who are just in communities. What systematic changes can happen to ensure that girls can still reclaim their lives by going back to school?
Where culture is concerned, it's a bit difficult. Because even when we go to the community to do the sensitization and even showing the older generation the importance of education, they still don't value education, especially for the girl child. So you will take the girl to school and she will be married or married off. They will say the girl will continue with school, but when this time comes, when this girl is pregnant and she gets, she now gives birth, now she's told to sit back and take care of the baby. So it's on the policies, the duty bearers have to be very intentional. That even action is supposed to be taken when we go out there and we get girls that are not in school, because it has been directed that every girl, whether she's a mother or not, should go back to school. The good thing with rescuing them is that you're removing them from the environment that this happened. And it is not very easy. There's nobody who is going to force them to get married or have another baby when I am with them. But again, like we said, we cannot rescue everybody. So I think things need to be, people need to be intentional and deliberate to say that these girls get education. And even as they continue getting, they're taking care of their babies. I'll give you a scenario whereby I have a teenage mother that now the girl, her daughter is ready to go to school. And I just struck a conversation with her. Can we take the baby to the grandmother? She didn't even wait for me to finish the question, because she said they are going to revenge and marry off my daughter, and I don't want my daughter to be circumcised. So there has to be a lot of effort to be put and to be made, so that we make sure that every girl, every adolescent mother goes back to school, so that they can regain their future, they can follow their destinies and become important people in the society.
The work you're doing also links to ending a cycle of poverty by rescuing a girl, giving them an opportunity to even take care of their children and take their children to school. Have you have an example that is, you can tell us about a beautiful story of how you rescued one and where they are now and how they are faring in life?
Actually, I can give about 15. that were rescued, some of them in primary school, some of them immediately they were going to form one, and all of them have gone through secondary education. All of them have gone through a computer course and beauty. Now the question and probably the question is, when they go home, they're still looked upon as girls. So they need also not to stay in that environment because they will be given out for marriage. And what I've realized in the communities that marry off their children, the children cannot say no. So we've had like a case, I rescued a teenage mother who actually at 13, this girl had 2 kids. And I rescued the girl, both the girl and the babies. Both of the children are boys. And we brought up the babies as the girl went to school. And now she's one of the girls that have completed secondary education, have the skills of computer and beauty. And now she is working at an M-Pesa as we look in other ways to equip her. Because for me, I want to go beyond the 18 years. Because even if we do the 18 years and the girl goes back and gets married, we've not achieved. So we are still following them up even where they are at home, so that we can make sure that this girl, number one, has a voice. She can be able to make decisions. She can be able to say, I am not going to get married to this old man. I have my choice. And above all, she's able to even work and educate her children.
I remember the last 5 years, there's been all these numbers of hundreds and hundreds of teenage and adolescent mothers, reported by the government. But I haven't seen like an action to either stop it, end it, or implement policies to support them, even if they've gone through the motherhood. If today you are the president or the Minister of Health, what is that one thing you will do to make sure that these young mothers still enjoy their future as young girls?
I think number one, I will make sure that they all get education. They get education, they get the protection they need from the parents who are either giving them up for marriage. And then I will do a lot of, I think, talk to the girls, just to sensitize them on sexual reproductive health. I would avail every knowledge that is available to these girls, that they can either not get into having babies when they are very young, and those who have already gotten babies, they will be protected and they will given opportunities to go back to school.
My last question, there has been a lot of contradictions about reproductive health in schools. When does it start? When should it start? What's your view?
I believe in every level of age, there is a communication that can be done. Like the very young children in my rescue center, they know where they're not supposed to be touched. They know even when their mothers are giving them a bath, there are places they are not supposed to be touched. They know they are not supposed to share a bathroom. So it has to start very early. Very early. Actually, sometimes I say, even when a mother is breastfeeding, you have a language, you have a communication to your child. You can actually start communicating with this child according to that level. We don't have to wait until when they are teenagers. We don't have to wait until when they have now realized I am so different and there is a chemistry that can happen between me and the opposite sex. We need to start equipping them as early as possible.
Thank you so much, Florence, for joining us today and for giving those girls hope. We hope that in future we'll sit down with you for a different conversation to celebrate the work you've been doing. But for now, we hope that you continue to ignite their lives and just give them a hope for a better future.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the good work you're doing in amplifying the voices of women and these adolescent and teenage girls.